All good?
Yeah. The camera. Do you want me to zoom out?
How do we do that? I don't know what it looks like.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Cool. I guess we'll get started. Thank you guys for joining me this afternoon. And, well, thank you guys, the organizers, for organizing this. They're leaving. Bye-bye. And thank you for coming to VandyHacks. This is pretty near and dear to my heart. And today I'll talk about how I fixed a critical bug on Rumbleverse as an intern. And I was the summer 2022 intern, and now I'm working as an associate software engineer at Iron Galaxy. So here's an overview of what we're going to talk about tonight. A little bit about myself first, and I'll talk about IG, then I'll talk about what's Rumbleverse, and a little bit about my role as an intern. Then we'll go into the actual bug fix and a bit of outro. So about me. I'm Austin, and as I said, I'm a software engineer at IG. So my favorite food is actually Japanese food, and I like sushi a lot. Currently playing BG3 and Cyberpunk 2077 with the new DLC coming up. A fun fact about me is every part of my English name is wrong, except my last name. Yeah, that's just how my parents be sometimes. And my IG experience was, I had a 2-month internship. Then I worked part-time after the internship and took like a 3-month break to travel, and then came back in August, and now it's been almost 3 months. Apart from being an employee at IG, I was also part of VandyHacks. I was the co-president at VandyHacks 8, so 2 years ago, and I was VandyHacks 9 a year ago, and VandyHacks 8, I was the director of design and also a member of operations. As you can see, there are some of the pictures that I took at the event. That's me in an astronaut suit that almost suffocated me to death. Yep. And now, who's IG? We're one of the world's largest independent developers with over 15 years of making games. And we have currently 270 plus team members on the team. We have more than 80 shipped titles and have worked with 20 plus industry partners. Here are the locations that we have currently. So we have our headquarters in Chicago, an office in Nashville, office in Orlando, and one coming up in Austin, Texas. So if any of those locations interest you, definitely stick around. We'll have some contact information. And Eli is actually here if you guys want to talk about anything recruitment. Well, maybe IG doesn't really ring a bell to you gamers out there, but some of the projects probably will. Here are some of the highlights, projects that we worked on. Yeah, you might recognize the little Starfield thing over there, you know, Call of Duty. Some of you probably know that, right? Fortnite. Yep. Okay. Here are also some of the poor projects that we worked on, like Skyrim, Borderlands, Batman. And here are the support work that we've worked on as well, like Destiny, Fallout, or Metroid Prime. That's pretty recent. And an engineer at IG. This is like just an example of what projects they would be working on over 12 years. As you can see, it's pretty varied and a lot of projects under their belt. It's not typical in a lot of other studios, but at IG, because we work with so many other partners, we have more opportunities coming up, and we want you to be like more of a generalist rather than just sticking on one project and being an expert at that code base. We want you to be able to adapt to different code bases. And this is how you train someone like that. You guys recognize some of these games, right? Okay, just making sure. And now moving on to what is Rumbleverse. Rather than me telling you what it is, let me show you a clip.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Oh, 504 off the top rope.
Oh, and the uppercut, the big reveal.
And then the punish. Yep. Super comes down. Let's see if they can pull it off. Oh, ooh, that was.
We got Bottle in the building. Come on,
That
Bottle.
was good.
Oh,
So we lost to 2 developers. Get out of here.
Oh, Greg, we were close, man. We were so close.
Also, Mike, if you could bring your game audio back up again. I think
Yes, of course.
it got quieter somehow.
Oh no, I've seen that. Seen that move before. Uh-oh.
Look at this.
Mistakes were made. Mistakes were made.
This is a battle right now. Bottle's got a lot of health.
Wall combo. Wall combo.
Oh. Keats needs a big one
Oh,
here.
that's not good. Oh, there we go.
I think they were going to try to eliminate you with the book, maybe.
Oh, that's
Throw the book at him. Oh, my.
Ooh,
You're
big chicken.
crazy.
There we go. There we go.
No, no.
Oh, punish.
Wall combo.
Splat. And
Got him. Oh, with the
Red
bounce
Oh, the
back,
super
though.
back. The pod, the defense.
Well played.
Ooh.
Wall combo. I'm dead. Nice.
Nice.
Good job, Bottle.
Good job,
Okay.
Paul. You've gotten so good. I'm so proud of you.
All
So
right.
really quick, with that super back, is that
Okay, so that was a little clip of Rumbleverse. And let me introduce you. This is Adam Boyce. He is one of the co-CEOs at IG right now. And previously he worked at Capcom and was the VP of Publisher and Developer Relations at Sony. And here's Adam Hart. He was the lead designer on Rumbleverse and Killer Instinct. He's also pretty known in the FGC, which is the fighting games community. And that clip I just showed you earlier, they were talking about this figure right here. That is actually me. So I was IGS Bottle, and I just beat somebody in FGC on live stream in front of my CEO, and yeah, that was pretty epic. Yeah. So what Rumbleverse is, it is a 40-person free-to-play melee battle royale with solo, duo, and trio modes, and developed by IG and published by Epic Games. So if you see right here, for those of you who can read Chinese, that is the queue, and the queue was like over 100,000 people in it. And at one point, PlayStation had Rumbleverse as their banner on Twitter. Despite all that, though, it was sunset on February 28th of this year, so unfortunately, you can no longer play it. But one thing to think about is you can think of this as, like, it's not an equivalent by any means, but you can think of this as Fortnite, but with melee combat. Yeah. So now moving on to my internship. Here are some pictures during my internship. My cohort throwing darts, watching movies, eating. That's also after eating. So we ate a lot. And this is my statistics while I was on Rumbleverse. So I was assigned to 93 tasks during my 2-month internship, according to Jira, apparently. And here are some pictures of me and my friends debugging or just playing the game. Apparently, they really like my workspace. I don't know if it's the vertical monitor or something, but yeah. And here's an embarrassing story about me. So this tweet from Rumble Support, which is the official Twitter of Rumbleverse, says, "We are investigating an issue that is preventing players from equipping or deleting their saved accessory presets. We'll share an update as soon as we have more information." And it is yours truly who introduced that bug. Yeah. And the reason why the bug was there was because I made an invalid index mistake. We found that out afterwards. But moral of the story is, you can make mistakes as an intern and they will still hire you as long as you make up for it. And here's a little chart of like how much impact interns had when joining the UI team, which was really like under fire. UI just has so many bugs and so little people to work on them. So this line right here, this red, is the amount of bugs that UI was getting, and the green ones are the amount of bugs that got resolved. And this spot right here is where the interns joined. As you can see, interns really helped with IG on this project, and which is why we're hiring more interns. And here's a little sneak peek of me looking at Rumbleverse on my PS5 and me finding my name in the credits, which was pretty cool as an intern. And now onto the actual bug fix. And this bug was Jira Rumbleverse 32426. And it reads like this. User can progress challenges on the barge. Here we see a description of the bug, update if they had any from QA. And the current result is that users can progress their challenges on the barge. What we want, which is listed in the expected result, is that user is only able to progress challenges on the island. So internally, we use Jira to track bugs and tasks. And on a bright November day, I was assigned this task. Cool. If you look on the side of the task, you can see a few components. Like it's listed as gameplay, must fix for version, UI, and UI engineering. So must fix is something that obviously you must fix in order for that particular build to go through. And the fixed version is 2.6, so that's the build version. And the priority right here is critical. On the side, you can see some comments from my coworkers. This was my boss. She was saying like upping severity because this is happening for all challenges. And another engineer sent this task my way because I took a look at it. And now you might be wondering, what magic did I do to get such a critical bug as an intern? And now may I direct your attention to this linked issue right here. What it is doesn't really matter. What you should know is I was on that task. And this bug was not there until I finished that task. So if you're really looking for critical bugs and just like really desperate for them, I guess you can create your own ones. No, don't do it. Just kidding. Yeah, so what now? After I get that task. First off, we need to see what the actual issue is. And folks on QA will usually provide us with the really helpful repo steps. And most times they will also provide some attachments, like right here. Right there. For example, if we click on the first zip file, I received the logs from Cosmo, which is the server, and the actual client. And then I received a screen recording of what the bug was. So let's take a look at the video.
Have you seen the new item? Some have been saying its random appearance is nonsensical, but I'm calling it mysterious. Ooh. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right. If that didn't make any sense to you, that is perfectly normal. Because you guys probably don't know what actually just happened. But by this point, I had already realized what the bug was. And since you guys probably don't know, not familiar with Rumbleverse, let me give you like a quick rundown of the system. So here's the barge. And as you can see on the left picture, it looks kind of like a ship. And this is the place where the players gather before being launched into the actual combat arena. And the cannon is how the players are launched. So this black thing right here. Then when we have the island right here, that is where the PvP combat actually takes place. So you can think of the barge as your ungraded homework, and you can think of the cannon as your walk to the exam room, and the island as the actual exam. So the challenge is something that a player can compete in order to gain fame, which is something like XP in a game. So these are daily challenges. These are weekly challenges. For instance, in this bug, the bat combat was completed. It says grab a bat and get swinging. And if you remember from the video, the player was hitting another player with a bat. And by the end of it, it was saying that the bat challenge has been completed. Win on the barge. Yeah, like I said, the player was dealing damage with weapons on the barge. And because the barge is essentially a place for players to just goof around in, it's like your ungraded homework, the damage a player deals on the barge should not count towards their experience. But we see in this clip that it's actually counting towards the progress of a challenge. It's as if you are a student who somehow got all the exam questions, answered them all correctly using like ChatGPT, talking to your friends, or just getting your smart cousin to help you do it, or what have you. And then getting 100% on the exam, and the professor is like, great, I'll give you that 100%. And obviously, it'd be wonderful to you as a student. But as the professor, you should probably start looking for another job. So yeah, how do we go about fixing this? Here's my initial thought process. So we have the bug. Players are able to progress challenges on the barge. And what we want is for players to not be able to do that, which is just do not update stats when they're on the barge. So when they're taking ungraded homework. And what we need to do, like in my head at this point, was we first need to learn where and how we're updating challenges or stats. You can kind of think of them interchangeably in the code. And then after we know where and how, we need to check if a player is on the barge, and if they are on the barge, we disable the update. First step, learn where and how we are updating challenges. So the initial part of this takes a bit of intuition, and the more familiar you are with the code base, the faster it will be for you to find the exact function. I usually go about guessing it at first. I would think like, is this supposed to be in the game flow, the game state, game mode, player state, whatever? And if none of those terms mean anything to you, just think of them as files in your project. So which file will this function likely appear in? And then I would go about searching some keywords. And for this bug particularly, I will search something like barge, challenge, update, or stats. After I do that, I'll just find some references that cause on some of those keywords. So what does that all mean? Here is the search result of barge, the word barge. So out of the 155 results, I saw this line right here that caught my attention, which reads, determine whether the new player is on the barge, and if so, stop stats from incrementing. That sounds exactly like what I was looking for. So what I would do next is click on that, which takes me to a code snippet. And over here, because the previous engineer wrote really helpful comment, I know exactly what this code is doing. Because otherwise, I wouldn't really equate like waiting for players, waiting to start free roam mode to on the barge. Yeah. But that if check right here is how I know whether the player is on the barge or if they're not on the barge. And I know if they are on the barge, I want to disable stats. And if they're not on the barge, I want to re-enable stats so that they can progress towards their fame or gain XP. So now I know where to do that. I would need to find how it's updating the stats. And because I was already kind of familiar with the code base, I knew this was the function that was updating the stats. Or if you don't, you can search something like update stat. And if the engineer before you was really helpful in naming their code, you will be able to find it. If not, you need to talk to them, like talking to people, right? Yeah. So we see a bunch of if macros in this code snippet. And a part of the job as an engineer is parsing only the things that you need. So a lot of the stuff I don't really need. Some of it is like CVAR, which is for debug. Some of it is for non-shipping builds or like different stat versions. After a few bugs, after a few iterations, you'll be able to find exactly what you need. And I found it to be this right here, this function which says update stat. So what does that really do? If I try to find symbol references for update stats, I will see a huge list, 106 matches found. And what that means is there are 106 stats that we're tracking in this game at any given time. And for each one of them, we have different means of updating their stats. But while this knowledge is certainly helpful, it's not the most important part of my task. My task was to enable or disable stat incrementation whenever they're on the barge. I don't need to know the exact methodology they're going about updating the stats. I just need to tell them to do this or don't. So now that I know where and how we're updating stats, I can move on to the actual implementation. And by this point, I need to know if a player is on the barge, and if they are, I need to do something about it. So here are some of the questions I asked myself during that time. Is there an existing function to check whether we're on the barge? If you remember from before, there was an if statement, which should suffice for my purpose. And do we know where we're updating the stats? Absolutely, we just saw it, which is the update stat function, right? So we know all those pieces. Now how do we put them all together? How do we enable or disable stat updates? One possible solution, going back to update stat, is to enclose the entire functionality in an additional check, which is something like if appropriate to update. So it would be like if and bracket, bracket. And in order to achieve that, we need to add a few things. First off, we need a protected property for that class, for the stat class. And then, so I wrote that up to be can increment stats. Then initialize that to be true. Second of all, we need public functions, a public setter and a public getter. That is all over here. So other functions and other classes can call to it. Now that we have the setter and the getter, we can add the check here to do exactly what we wanted to do, which is only update when we could increment stats. So where exactly do we enable or disable? Because currently it's just initialized to true, right? So it will always update. How do we turn that off? Going back to this comment right here, determine whether a new player is on the barge. We know that we want to disable stats when they're on the barge, which is inside the if, and enable the stats outside of if. So we just want to add the disable here, enable here. And it looks like that's all we need to do, right? Well, yes and no. So in the way that we set the system up, stats are part of what we call a player state. And for the purpose of this talk, you can just think of a player state as a player. And we could obviously just write a big block of code that is specific to the player state, the PS, which doesn't really belong to the game mode, which is where this code is from. We can just write a whole big chunk here. Or we could be a better engineer and do our best to make our code more structured and easier to understand. So something a little bit along the lines of PS, something, something. So we want to call a function in player state rather than just doing that all here. Yeah, all that is to say we should make a function in player state, since enabling and disabling stats is specific to the player state. So how do we do that? Make a function in player state, adjust the header file, and then write the source code for it. Sounds easy enough. Right. remember this set can increment stats. That's what we wrote. That's the setter that we wrote for the stat system. And we're calling that here because it's specific to the player state. And before we do that, we need to verify if we're on the server, which I will talk about in just a moment. So here's what we have, finally. This function disabled the stats when the game is not in progress, so when it's not on the barge or not in playground. And afterwards, if we're out of the barge, we want to enable stat tracking, so we want to gain XP. So we do that by setting that to true. Right. So after I got all the pieces together, what I do is I will put it in code review on Teams. And here's a link to the code changes that I made. What it is it's a swarm link. And I will show you what it looks like. So Swarm is an code review tool that we use on at IG. And it's something that puts the code that was in the depot on the left and what changes you made on the right. And other people can comment on it. And this is one of the examples, one of the changes that I made, which found a typo, and then one of the head guy was like, lol. Yeah. That's battle royale, not battle royal, by the way. Yeah, mind you, the solution I presented here today was not the solution I initially proposed. And here are some of the comments I got for my first pass. This CL kind of makes me nervous. Maybe I'm missing something here. Austin, can you briefly run me through what you found? And it is weird. Yeah. Of course, I've only plucked out the most eye-catching sentences. There's definitely more nuance than that. There's like a whole bunch of stuff afterwards, but this captures it, I think. All right. So what they were nervous about was something like this. So Rumbleverse is a server authoritative game. So what it means is the server should be telling the clients what states they're in currently. So the client can cheat. It's like if the client could cheat, it's like this. Here are the students, going back to our hypothetical student-professor example. Here are the students. The students are like, Professor, I want to change my exam score. And the professor is like, okay. When in reality, this exchange should not be happening in the first place. And they were concerned that this was happening. So yeah, in a server authoritative game, it should be like professors handing you the exam scores, and you can't really complain anything about it. Yep. So remember the function that we added earlier for the player state? Checking authority and authoritative game mode here. So has authority and get auth game mode here is important precisely because the game is server authoritative. And if I was not doing that, I would be exposing the system to potential cheating. So we want to build our best robust and anti-cheat system in a network game, which is pretty much all the games out there these days. Even when you're playing like Baldur's Gate 3, there's still network. Larian Studio is still getting your data if you're consenting to it. Anyway, so after some iteration, I got the final okay to submit. Yeah, after the it is weird comment. Yeah. And here's the final change list that I submitted to the depot. So we use something called perforce. And you can think of change list as a PR and the depot as a repo in GitHub. Yeah, that's the change list I submitted, and it went in. After the changes have been checked into the depot, I went back to Jira and updated the bug status to QA ready, right here, from in progress to QA ready. And then once QA tested it and found no further issue, the bug was finally closed. Yeah, so that was the process of the bug fix. Now a little bit of outro. So how many lines did I actually write? I counted, and it was 23, including brackets and comments. And how many files did I change? It was just 5 files, not too bad. How many days did I spend on this? About a day, including testing. And I was working part-time during then, so I wasn't technically an intern, but also I was getting like just barely above intern pay grade, so I was considering myself an intern. Anyway, yeah, it didn't take long. Some of the changes, even though it was critical, it sometimes just doesn't really take much, like a lot of changes to do it. So you just gotta be careful, like, oh, the small amount of changes that I put in could actually make or break a game, especially in a network game. Yeah, that's all I have. So if you guys have any Q&A, I'd be happy to answer. Yeah.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
What advice? Okay, maybe my question. I'll phrase it this way. Was it hard emotionally to have sort of managers say, "Wow, what did you just code?"
Well, I think at that point I was already like pretty used to some of the. Let me finish this. Let me finish this. I already knew what some of the figure of speech for some of these people are, so I know they don't mean anything by it. They're just like, it's weird. Fix it. It's just a fact. I didn't feel like I was like incompetent or anything. I just felt like, oh, this is something that I didn't know, like something I could work on. And then like sometimes they would put something like a comment there. It's like, you should definitely check that the RPC is not coming from the client and instead coming from the server. And I'm just like, thumbs up. And I did not know what the heck I was doing. Because I would just go back, Google, or like ask people like, hey, what does this actually mean? And they would be like more than happy to tell me. It's one of the reasons why IG is like wonderful for like earlier career folks like myself. Everybody's just willing to help you, and even if you get something like, it makes me nervous. What are you doing? It's they're not doing it to make you feel bad. They're doing it because they want a good product, and the players deserve a good product. And you have to remember that you're working towards the same goal. And yeah, I thought it was fun. Like it builds the team. It builds my spirit, at least.
What made you interested in game development in the first place?
Oh, well, it started when I was born. No, well, it started pretty, not long after I was born, I would say. Like, as early as I can remember, I've been playing games. Like, you guys know Contra? Yeah, you guys are too young for that. Yeah, I've been playing that game, like, when I was young. And Game Boy, anybody? Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I'd always known, and I always known that in order to make games, I have to know CS, have to be pretty logical about like when I'm at work, sometimes in life, not so much. Yeah.
Did you have any experience in game dev before your internship?
Experience in games?
Yeah, before your internship in game dev.
Oh, let me think. I actually, so before getting the internship at IG, I had a live service visual novel going that was played by like a good amount of people, and that wasn't 3D though, because like at IG we pretty much only really deal with 3D projects. So I was a little be like, I don't know if this impresses you, but it was fun for me. But other than that, ooh, I also completed the Unity tutorial, and I made like 2 balls fall. So that was something. So no, not really. You can definitely, like, as long as you have the drive to learn, and because there's just so much free resources out there, you'll be able to like have a better foothold at the start than I ever was. Oh.
Is the visual novel still out there?
Yes, it is, and I have not told anybody about it except like people who I know nothing about.
I can play it.
Let me read it.
We'll talk about it. Yeah. Leo?
What do you or I think about Unity charting that?
Oh, what do I think? And what I say here is nothing in relation to IG's comments. I mean, it's kind of disheartening for a lot of the small game studios, but also if you look at their threshold for student projects, I don't think it's ever gonna go that high. So if you really want to learn something in Unity, you should just go do it. And learning something is better than not learning something, regardless of the technology or like the future. It's something that you can talk about during your internships, something that you can write on your website, your resume. Doing is always better than not doing.
So you said this was an internship.
Yeah.
Did you do this like over winter break? I saw like the things were like.
Oh yeah. So the internship was during summer, and then after the internship ended, I continued to work part time. Yeah. So I was pretty checked out my senior year of college. If you knew me back then, you knew me back then as the person who did not show up. Yeah. Ooh, this project is really cool, but it's also something that, like, even some people at IG don't know. So. Yeah.
We signed so many NDAs. I was gonna be like, oh no, awesome, the second birthday.
Yeah. I mean, if it ever comes out, I'll be able to talk about it.
What's the most recent thing you worked on that's not in the
Rumbleverse. Yeah.
So if you were to like, what kind of languages or frameworks or libraries would be great to know if you were to become an intern at IG?
Definitely C++. So if you've talked to me before or talked to anybody at IG before, it's like C++, 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 because that's what Unreal Engine uses. And a lot of the projects at IG are Unreal Engine projects. Sometimes we also work with partners who have their own engines, but if you have a solid foundation in C++, like object-oriented programming, most times you'll do fine. Yeah.
How well would you say Vanderbilt has helped you prepare for this internship and like your job and whatnot? And how much effort would you say you have to put like outside of your classes and whatnot to just learn like C++ aspect?
Yeah, ISD actually really helps, I think. So, butter up to Hemingway. What else? There was, like, if you're just going over the fundamentals like algo, discrete, just pay more attention in those classes. Like, regardless of what framework you're gonna use, those are the things that will stick with you. And one thing I really like about being at IG as an intern was the fact that we were given time in the beginning to learn Unreal, to learn the stuff that we actually need to be on the job. That was really helpful. Vandy, I mean, it's my alma mater, so it's good. It helped. But it's also what you make of it. Yeah. Look at the people around you. They're going to be your best resources.
So is there any advice you would give to yourself 4 years ago, a freshman year, or as a freshman?
Yeah, I would say just start doing things and not thinking about doing them. It's like there are so many tutorials you've probably bookmarked but never looked at afterwards. Go look at them. and actually start doing. Yeah, to start doing stuff. Yeah. And if there's nothing else, or if you want to talk afterwards, here is my contact info. I don't know what you young people use nowadays, but that's what I use. Yeah, you can add me on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, email, and you can apply to IG over there. We're not looking for interns for this upcoming summer, but if you're graduating or if you want to just stay in the loop for next internship, definitely scan that QR code or look at our website. And Eli's here to help if you have any more recruitment questions. Yeah, thank you guys for coming.
Woo! And I'll be at the career fair tomorrow with another engineer, so we can talk more, we can chat. I have a resource kit I can send you if you want to get a gig in games. I can help you. I would love for it to be with Iron Galaxy, but if it's at another company,